One of my favorite scriptures in the New Testament is the one that states, "If ye have done it unto the least of these, my brethren, you have done it unto me." Darren was 44 this past June. My husband and I have known Darren since before he was born. And Darren grew up as a normal infant, a normal child, went to school. Darren went to high school. He excelled in sports. He was very popular. He was very outgoing. He was a religious young man. And when he turned 19, he chose to serve a mission for his church for 2 years. After his mission, he met and married his sweetheart, moved to Oklahoma, and she had a child. He adopted her child, and they had 2 more children. When their middle child was 2 years old, he had contracted leukemia. Darren and his wife both worked, but the middle child needed to be in the hospital and needed medical care. So they decided that Darren would be the parent that would stay in the hospital with the child. Dealing with this issue was very, very difficult for Darren and for his wife and for their family. And there came a tipping point in Darren's life wherein he decided that he needed alcohol in his life. And to make a very, very long story short, Darren and his wife eventually divorced. The young man survived the bout with leukemia and is in his 20s today. However, this was a tipping point that caused Darren to become homeless and to become addicted to alcohol. So for the last 15 to 20 years, Darren has been on the streets. He's been in Oklahoma, he's been in Utah. And over Memorial Day, he came down to California. And he called and he said, "Will you pick me up at the bus station in Anaheim?" And I said, "Darren, I'll pick you up if you're sober." And he said, "I'll be sober." And I went down there on a Saturday night and I picked him up at 10:30. He walked off the bus. He was filthy. He had hopped a train from Las Vegas to Victorville. Someone in Victorville had bought him a ticket and he had come down Southern California. For the next 3 months, Darren was in and out of facilities, and thank you for those of you that have those facilities and were involved in Darren's life. He had times when he was sober and was doing very, very well. But Darren didn't make it. Darren ended up in Newport Beach a few weeks ago. He was arrested. He ended up in Hoag Hospital, and at 2:30 in the morning, he checked himself out, and he crossed the main highway, and he was hit by an SUV, and he was killed instantly. I know that every one of us has a Darren that we have dealt with, if not more. And I know that that is one of the reasons that we are here today, to hear from each other. How can we help these Darrens that have gone through this difficult issue, and how can we help them to reconnect back with their families and in their communities? Thank you.
Well, good morning. It's really nice to see such a large group out this morning. I'm not going to take very much time this morning. You've heard from the rest of the council and the city manager. I think one of the really great things about the city of Whittier has been the tremendous social network we've been able to build over the last 30 years in the city of Whittier. When I first came on the council back in 1976, it was just a handful of groups trying very hard to establish a cohesive body of work. It slowly grew, and again, in the establishment of First Aid, I thought was really a landmark decision by the council to be able to help a group here locally that had tremendous volunteer support and grew. That in turn has branched into so many other groups and a tie together of so many social organizations. But like any town, we're also somewhat the victim of our own success. Whittier is known as a compassionate city. It's known as a safe place. It's known as a caring community. And unfortunately, that also brings a great attraction of more than our share of the homeless situation in this area. Today, we're attracting people that are coming from all parts of the United States to Whittier. Recent statistics I've seen have taken people coming in from Arizona, Nevada, other parts further east, north and south, because it is a place that they know that they'll get compassion, and it's a nice warm climate, a little warmer today than we want. But it is important for us, I think, as we focus on this problem, to try to also understand that we need to provide as much help as we can to the people that are in need, but it's also extremely important that we take those people that want help and provide it, but not simply take people and give continuous handouts that do not require some degree of participation by the people that are asking for help. I've been very unhappy to see that some groups have dropped some of the old provisions that were adopted many years ago, having to do with making sure that people that come in and asking for help, for example, are sober, that they are not disruptive, that they try to put themselves in a situation where they're actively getting help, whether it be for for various types of assistance that they need, whether it be drug and alcohol, other training programs, and so on. We need to encourage these types of activities, and not just simply feel that if we give somebody a sandwich today, that we've done our job as caring people who want to help. We've also got to help them progress up that ladder that will get them towards independence, and that will find a way to become really useful people within the community. So as we talked about it today, I'm going to be very interested to hear about the various groups here in town. We've all worked with them for a number of years. The council is heavily committed. There's a social program, but there's also a responsibility for providing a safe and active community. One of the big problems that you hear from so many of the community that's not actively involved in social services has just been the overwhelming feeling of too many people coming and asking for services, asking for help, and not taking responsibility for themselves. We've seen the increase not only of homeless people, but of drug and alcohol situations throughout the community. And we need to actively work towards this and bring people up to try to actively help them progress in their lives so that they become a responsible member of this community, and not simply be there asking for services from the community. So we have a wonderful group, so many people, and I'm very eager to hear from you today, and thank you all for coming.
Thank you all. Just so that you know, we'll stay up. We're almost done. So we got Councilman Joe Vinatieri, City Manager Jeff Collier, Councilman Owen Newcomer, Councilman Bob Henderson, and Councilwoman Kathy Warner. We're going to have a little Q&A, so write down your questions on these index cards, please. That's going to be part of us, how we track what's important to the community as to the question surfaces time and time again. That's something that we need to get an answer to. So please write down your question. If you have a question for anyone in particular or just as a whole, please raise your hand and we can start on some Q&A. Does anyone have any questions for your city council?
I'm sure all of you, it hasn't been lost on you, but you have all 5 members of the Whittier City Council here, as well as the city manager. And hopefully that makes a statement to you about how we all, as your team, how we feel about this issue in Whittier. So I just drew it's self-evident.
Yeah, I mean, raise your hand if you guys got a question. Now's a great opportunity to ask our council any questions you may have. Yes, Nat.
I don't need to know. If it's up 47%, is there any knowledge of where that's coming from? Is it aging out foster? Is it transient communities from other states? Is there any concept of where that jump came from?
We're actually getting a much better read on that, and pretty much the answer is all of the above. Not to get too detailed, but there's a coordinated entry system now. So throughout, wherever you go as a homeless individual seeking help, you get ask some questions. That goes into the computer, which is shared countywide, and it also helps find, there's a service down the road 5 miles that can help you. The evidence that I've seen from that coordinated service does not indicate that there's a large percentage coming from outside. The bulk of the homeless are homeless. They grew up in the area. They live in the area. They wish to stay in the area. And yes, some of them have drug problems. Some have alcohol.